He walked up to me, inhaled deeply, and then passed right by. To her. My little sister. My biggest fear. I didn't breathe. I couldn't. Not when I felt it. That burning thread wrapping around my lungs, my bones, my soul. The pull that every wolf in our kind dreams of. The bond. It hit me like a wildfire. 1 second I was standing in the sacred circle of lantern light, surrounded by whispers and anticipation, and the next, the world had narrowed into a single heartbeat. Mine. And his. Alric Thorn stepped into the clearing like something from a legend. Tall, broad-shouldered, with raven-black hair and eyes like storm clouds about to break. His wolf was so close to the surface I could feel it in my skin. A crackle in the air, a sharp scent of cedar and ash. He was the new alpha of the Iron Claw pack. The joining of our 2 packs tonight was supposed to be a diplomatic celebration. But this was something else. He paused just inside the circle of flames. His gaze swept the crowd like a blade, and then stopped. On me. The air between us pulled taut. My soul screamed, "It's him. It's him. He's mine." He took a step forward. My heart stuttered. Another step. The bond flared in my chest, so raw and bright I nearly stumbled. He was walking straight toward me. I didn't dare blink. Alric was now only a few feet away. His eyes locked onto mine, searching, intense. He breathed in. And then, he turned. My stomach dropped. His boots crunched against the dirt as he walked past me. Not slowing. Not looking back. He stopped in front of her. Mia, my little sister. Sunlight in a body, laughs too loud. Eyes always too wide with want. My opposite in every way. And my only real weakness. She blinked up at him, all fluttering lashes and fake confusion. "Oh," she breathed. "Is it me?" Alric nodded slowly. Almost like it hurt him. "I feel the bond," he said. His voice was gravel and thunder. "She's my mate." The crowd gasped, then erupted into cheers. I didn't move. Inside me, everything shattered. It felt like I'd been doused in ice. The heat that had lit up my veins a moment ago was gone, replaced with nothing but emptiness. Mia looked over her shoulder at me. She smiled, small, secret, almost sorry. Almost. I took a step back. The world was spinning. The light from the torches flickered wildly, mocking me. This couldn't be happening. I had waited 24 years. Waited with dignity, patience, hope. Waited to be chosen, not because of beauty or charm, but because fate said I was it. Because my soul would call, and someone else's soul would answer. It had answered. But not for me. "Emily," someone whispered behind me. Maybe Lena. Maybe Mom. I didn't hear the rest. I turned and walked. Fast. Then faster. The trees swallowed me. The cheering faded behind. Only when I was alone, deep in the forest, did I stop. My knees gave out beneath me, and I dropped to the cold ground. I pressed my hands against the dirt like it could hold me together. But it couldn't. Nothing could. Because what they didn't know, what I couldn't explain, was that I still felt it. The bond. Even as he stood beside her, holding her hand in front of the packs, it was still burning inside me. A flame that refused to die. And deep down, a voice whispered, "Something's wrong. This isn't real. This was supposed to be you." But no one would believe that. Not when the alpha had chosen the golden girl. Not when the world already loved Mia too much to question her. And not when I was the quiet one. The careful one. The one who always stepped aside. Not this time. The smell of mint tea clung to the kitchen like a lie dressed in honey. I sat at the table, clutching a chipped mug I hadn't touched, staring at the steam rising from the surface. It curled and danced, taunting me with warmth I couldn't feel. Mia sat across from me, her legs folded beneath her like she didn't have a care in the world. She was wearing one of my sweaters. Cream-colored, soft, too big for her. And somehow she made it look expensive. Like she always did. "I still can't believe it," she said, lifting her mug to her lips. "I mean, I didn't expect it at all. Did you?" I didn't answer. She sipped. then smiled at me over the rim of the cup, not cruelly. Just too brightly. I thought it would be you, honestly, she continued, setting her mug down. You're older. And quieter. Alphas like that serious thing, don't they? My fingers tightened around the ceramic. She was lying. I didn't know how, not yet. But I knew that tone. That too innocent lilt. That syrupy sweet smile that always came right before she said something she knew would sting. I'm happy for you, I said, finally. My voice came out flat, but not shaking. That was something. Mia tilted her head, studying me. You don't look happy. I didn't sleep much. A lie for a lie. She nodded sympathetically, reaching across the table to touch my hand, and I flinched before I could stop myself. Her fingers hovered for a second, then pulled back like I'd burned her. There it was again, that look. The one that flickered across her face every time I didn't fall into the role she'd assigned me. The good sister. The background one. The one who doesn't fight. She didn't say anything else, just smiled again, quieter this time, and picked up her tea. Later that day, I walked through the village streets with my coat wrapped tightly around me. The air smelled like damp earth and pine needles. The aftermath of last night still lingered in the way people looked at me. Too kindly, too carefully. Poor Emily. It should have been her. I hated their pity more than the silence. Lena found me outside the old bakery. She linked her arm through mine without asking, like she always did, and handed me a paper bag with a still warm blueberry roll inside. I know you don't eat stress carbs, she said. But you're making an exception today. I took a bite without answering. The sugar didn't help. She walked with me in silence for a while before speaking again. Alric was pacing near the northern ridge this morning, she said. Looked like hell. Jaw tight. Eyes bloodshot. I didn't respond. Lena glanced sideways at me. He didn't even look at Mia. Not once. Not the way you'd expect, you know. My stomach twisted. She went on, voice lower now. I know the bond thing is supposed to be undeniable, but is it? I mean, what if it can be tricked somehow? I stopped walking. She froze beside me. I'm sorry, that was... No. I shook my head. You're not wrong to ask. The problem was, I had asked myself the same question, all night, over and over again. What if it was supposed to be me? What if something interfered? But every time that thought surfaced, I buried it again. Because the alternative, believing it and being wrong, would destroy me. Anyway, Lena said, trying to sound casual, if you want to disappear to the city for a while, I can cover your projects. That tower renovation's not going anywhere. I gave her a weak smile. I might take you up on that, but I didn't mean it. Not really. Because something in my gut, something wild and aching, kept whispering that this wasn't over, that I couldn't run yet. That the truth was still clawing its way to the surface. And when it did, I needed to be here to see it. I wasn't trying to find him. In fact, I'd gone out of my way not to. I took the Southern Ridge Trail, far from the patrol routes, just to clear my head and breathe something that wasn't my sister's perfume or the stale scent of pity. But fate, it seemed, had other plans. I was crouched by a thorn bush, sketching a quick idea for a roofline that had hit me mid-walk, when I heard boots on frost-bitten leaves. The hair on the back of my neck stood up before I even turned. He stepped into view from between the trees, tall, sharp, impossible to miss. Alric. We both froze. His eyes locked on mine, and something flared between us, sharp and electric, like a pulled wire snapping loose. What are you doing out here? He asked. His voice was low, rougher than I remembered. I stood slowly, slipping the pencil behind my ear. Didn't realize you had jurisdiction over every tree now. His jaw tightened. This area's near the border, not safe to be alone. I can handle myself. A pause. Then, that's not the point. He was angry, but it didn't feel like it was at me. Not really. His shoulders were too tense, his tone too strained. Like he was holding something back, chewing on words he didn't want to say. Well, I said, brushing off my jeans, if you're patrolling, don't let me get in the way. I moved to walk past him, a challenge if I was honest, and that's when it happened. A low branch snapped beneath my boot. I stumbled forward, hand outstretched to catch myself, and a sharp thorn bit into my palm. I hissed, instinctively drawing my hand back. And before I could process the sting, his hand was on mine. It was fast. Reflexive. He closed the distance in a heartbeat, grabbing my wrist, his thumb brushing over the cut with surprising gentleness. But his eyes weren't gentle at all. They were wide. Wild. Like something inside him had just broken through. His nostrils flared as he inhaled sharply. His pupils dilated, swallowing the gray of his irises. His grip on me tightened, not painfully, but with urgency, and then he growled. It was low, guttural, not human, a sound torn from somewhere deep inside his chest. I stood frozen, heart hammering. Every cell in my body screamed at me to move, but I couldn't. Not with the heat radiating off his skin. Not with that look in his eyes. "Alric," I whispered. As if the name woke him up, he jerked back like I'd struck him. His breath came ragged, shoulders rising and falling too fast. He stared at me like he couldn't recognize what he'd just done. And then, without a word, he turned and vanished into the trees. I stood there for a long time, staring at the space where he disappeared, the cut on my hand forgotten. What the hell just happened? It wasn't just instinct. It wasn't just pack concern or overprotectiveness. That growl, it had meaning. Possession. Recognition. And yet, he'd chosen Mia. He'd declared the bond. So why did it feel like something inside him was still trying to reach for me? I pressed my fingers to my wrist where he'd touched me. My skin still burned, as if the imprint of his palm lingered there. It didn't make sense. Unless the bond wasn't what it appeared to be. I remembered what the elders used to say when we were kids. You don't find your mate with your eyes. You feel them in your bones. Your blood sings. Your soul settles. With Mia and Alric, there was none of that. Just noise. Smiles too bright. Gestures too perfect. All performance, no pulse. But today, for one sharp, terrifying second, Alric's wolf had looked at me like he knew. And worse, like he didn't understand why he couldn't stop knowing. A chill ran down my spine, but not from the cold. If something was broken between him and Mia, if something had been forced or twisted, then someone had done it on purpose. And I had a very good idea who. The library smelled like dust, ink, and memory. Tucked behind the council hall, it was barely used anymore, a relic of when knowledge was still passed on paper and not just through stories whispered by the fire. But I remembered the old healer once told me, truth hides where no one bothers to look. So, I looked. My fingers skimmed cracked leather spines, tracing faded lettering. I wasn't entirely sure what I was searching for, just a feeling. A whisper in my bones that something about Alric's bond to Mia was wrong. Hours passed, the morning light shifting across the wooden floor. And then, almost as if the book found me, I saw it. On the distortion of soul-sent bonds, my breath caught. I sat down on the cold floor, flipping pages carefully, the paper delicate from age. Diagrams of glands. Ancient notes in ink so brown, it looked like dried blood. And then the words that stopped my heart. The scent of a soul is unique and sacred. Yet with the right components, dried verbena, blood blossom pollen and pheromone catalysts, it is possible to mimic or redirect a bond for a short time. This method is considered dangerous, volatile, and forbidden by all major clans. I read it again. And again. Blood blossom. Verbena. Pheromones. My mind flashed to Mia's dresser. Cluttered with crystals and glosses, oils and sachets. She always called them her mood blends. At the time, I hadn't thought anything of it. But something itched at me now. Back at the house, I waited until I heard the front door close, Mia leaving for her rehearsal dinner meeting, or a hair appointment, or some other adored sister errand, before slipping into her room. It was exactly as expected, beautiful chaos. Makeup scattered across her vanity. Shoes poking out from beneath a silk duvet. Her perfume still hung in the air, sweet and overwhelming. But I wasn't looking for pretty things. I opened the top drawer. Jewelry. The second. Lip tints, more glitter than pigment. Then the third. And there it was. A small wooden box, tucked beneath folded scarves. It didn't look like much. Smooth dark mahogany, no carvings, no locks. But when I lifted the lid, a wave of herbal musk spilled into the room. My heart thudded. Inside were dried bundles, crushed verbena, deep red flecks I didn't need to test to recognize as blood blossom, and tiny vials filled with amber liquid, labeled only with numbers and symbols. She'd been careful, but not careful enough. I closed the box and placed it back exactly where I found it, forcing my hands to stop shaking. This wasn't about Alric anymore. Not really. It was about Mia. She hadn't just stolen a bond. She'd fabricated it. Lied to him. Lied to me. Lied to the entire pack. And if anyone found out, it would destroy her. For the first time in days I felt steady. Cold, but clear. This wasn't about jealousy. It was about truth. And I needed someone who could confirm what I feared. The forest thickened as I climbed. The shadows deeper here, older. Crows cawed in the distance, their wings slicing through patches of sunlight. I followed the winding path to a stone cabin half covered in moss and roots. Smoke curled lazily from the crooked chimney. I knocked once. The door creaked open, revealing a man with eyes like tree bark, weathered, unreadable. "Emily Raine," he said, voice low and raspy. "Haven't seen you since your fever at 13. You remember that?" "I remember everyone who lives." He stepped back, letting me in. The inside smelled of herbs, smoke, and something coppery underneath. I showed him the passage I'd copied, the sketch of Mia's herbs. "I need to know if it's real," I said. He didn't answer at first. Just stared at the page, then at me. "I know what you're asking," he said eventually. "And yes, the soul scent can be faked. Briefly. But it never lasts. Why? Because the bond isn't just scent, it's instinct, spirit. Eventually the wolf inside knows." "And the herbs?" I pressed. He nodded. "Powerful, rare. Blood blossoms hard to find. And dangerous when combined with pheromone amplifiers. People have lost their minds trying to maintain the lie." I swallowed hard. "Why is it forbidden?" He looked at me then, really looked. "Because it turns love into a cage. And truth into war." I felt something inside me tighten. He poured a cup of dark tea and set it before me. "You could expose her," he said. "Go to the council. Confront them both." "I'm not ready." He tilted his head. "Then why did you come?" I stared into the tea's surface. "To stop feeling powerless," I said quietly. "To stop being the girl who lets things happen to her." Silence stretched between us. Then he gave a single nod. "Good." That night, back in my room, I sat in the dark with the window open, the air sharp against my skin. I didn't cry. I didn't pace. I planned. Because if Mia wanted to play games with the laws of fate, then I would play too. But this time, I'd play to win. I didn't change overnight, but I changed enough for them to notice. The braid in my hair was neater, tighter, no longer tossed together with distraction. My clothes fit sharper. I walked straighter. Spoke slower. Control looked good on me. It wasn't armor. It was intention. And I wore it like a second skin. When I arrived at the training grounds that morning, the usual whispers followed me. I ignored them, rolled up my sleeves and took my place beside the others for the morning drills. The warriors glanced at each other like they weren't sure where to put me. The alpha's knotmate, the sister of the golden girl. I didn't care. I matched every movement, every strike, every parry with silent precision. I was no fighter by trade, but I could hold my ground. I'd always been underestimated. That was their mistake. A few noticed. Including him, Alric. He was watching from the edge of the field, arms crossed, eyes narrow. I didn't meet his gaze. Instead, I laughed, loudly. At something Eli, one of the junior warriors, said as we practiced defensive rotations. I didn't even hear what it was. It didn't matter. Alric's jaw clenched. I saw it. He turned away before the drill ended. Good. By midday, I'd wandered down to the market, letting my fingers trail over fabrics, pretending to browse, but really just walking. letting them see me, see that I wasn't hiding, that I could still shine, even if the world had tried to dim me. That's when I saw him. Or rather, felt him. A presence near the tree line, on the far edge of the market, standing just beyond the sunlight. Watching. Tall? Still. Built like someone who didn't flinch. Dark hair, pulled back messily. A long jagged scar ran from just below his left eye down to his collarbone, like a truth carved into his skin. Our eyes met. And he smirked. Not friendly. Not mocking. Just curious. I looked away first, but not without heat creeping up the back of my neck. I turned to leave, heading toward the forest path. And of course, that's when he stepped in front of me. "You walk like someone playing a part," he said casually. I raised a brow. "Excuse me? You look like you've decided who you need to be. But you're wrong." I crossed my arms. "And who are you? The personality police?" He smiled, just barely. "Kyle. Exiled apparently. Dangerous likely. But not a liar." His name clicked in my memory. Whispered warnings from council meetings, stories told in cautionary tones. He'd been part of a rival pack once, until something. The details were always vague. "What do you want?" I was curious. He tilted his head. "About the girl who can smell a lie and still stays." I stiffened. He noticed. "Touched a nerve?" he asked. "No," I said evenly. "You just don't know me." "I know enough." He gestured toward the village behind us. "They see a girl scorned. I see a storm waiting to make someone regret underestimating her." I stared at him. "Why are you watching me?" "Because you're pretending you don't want to be watched." I hated how close to the truth that was. "I'm fine," I said. He leaned in just enough for me to feel the heat of his words. "Then stop playing defense." Before I could reply, he was gone, slipping into the trees like a shadow. That evening, a feast was held in the gathering hall. I didn't plan on attending. But when Mia stopped by my door with a new dress and a too sweet smile, I knew I had to go. The dress was silver. Too fitted. Too deliberate. I wore it anyway. Let them look. Let him look. And he did. Alric barely spoke the entire evening. His eyes followed me across the room like a second shadow, especially when I laughed a little too freely with two visiting warriors. Especially when I let one of them refill my drink with a hand that lingered just a second too long on my wrist. He stood abruptly halfway through the meal and left. Mia pretended not to notice. But I caught the twitch in her cheek. I smiled into my glass. I stepped outside for air sometime after moonrise. The night was cool, the forest edge cloaked in soft darkness. I didn't expect anyone else to be there. But of course, he was. Kyle stood beneath a crooked tree, arms folded, watching the stars like he didn't trust them. "You like playing games, don't you?" I said. "Only when the prize is worth it." I didn't answer. I didn't need to. He studied me for a moment, then said, quieter now. "You're getting good at this." "At what?" "Acting like it doesn't matter." I swallowed. "It does matter," I said. "But not the way they think." He nodded slowly. "Then stop living by their rules." I turned to look at him. His scar caught the moonlight. "You want to break a lie?" he said. "Then live your truth, loudly, unapologetically. Not for them, not even for him, for you." I stared at him. And for the first time in days, I felt something shift inside me. A spark. Not rage. Not grief. Choice. The Loon ceremony was older than any council, any alpha, any law. It was said the moon herself watched and judged, lending her power to the bond between mates. And tonight she was full and bright, a silver eye staring down without mercy. The whole pack had gathered by the lake. Torches lined the rocky shore, their flames flickering against the water's glassy surface. The circle had already formed, elders in the front, warriors in the rear, civilians murmuring among themselves. And at the center stood Mia. Glowing. Beautiful. Dressed in a sheer lilac gown that caught every ray of moonlight and reflected it like glass. She looked like something conjured, too perfect to touch. Alric stood beside her. Tall. Tense. his expression unreadable. I watched from the tree line, arms folded, heart steady. Kyle stood just behind me, leaning casually against a birch, as if this whole ancient ritual were a casual evening distraction. "Still think he'll go through with it?" he asked. "I don't know," I said. "But the moon doesn't lie." The council elder stepped forward, lifting a silver chalice. His voice rang clear and solemn. "Tonight, under the witness of Luna and our bloodlines, we affirm the fated bond between Alric Thorn of the Ironclaw and Mia Raine of the Rain Pack." A hush fell. Alric and Mia turned to face each other. Her hands were extended, palms up. His didn't move. For a long moment, he just stared at her, not at her dress, not at her face, through her, as if seeing something that didn't fit anymore. "Alric," Mia whispered, smiling like she could charm him into it. "It's okay. Just touch me." He took a step forward, and then stopped. His hand twitched. His face contorted, like something inside him twisted the wrong way. Then suddenly, violently, he jerked back, eyes wide. "No," he growled. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Mia blinked, reaching for him. "What?" Alric staggered. His breathing grew ragged. His pupils dilated. And then he snarled. The sound wasn't human. It tore from his throat like a beast breaking through skin. The crowd backed away in alarm. Mia stumbled, dropping her hands. Alric's wolf was surfacing, fast, bones cracking beneath skin, claws pushing from fingertips. His control was gone, and his eyes, wild, feral, scanned the crowd, until they locked onto me. I didn't move. His wolf lunged forward, and Kyle's hand clamped around my wrist. "Move," he said. He pulled me back just as Alric's feet slammed against the edge of the circle. Two warriors stepped in front of him, shielding the others. Alric froze again, fighting the shift. His jaw clenched. His whole body shook. But he wasn't looking at anyone else. Only me. Mia was pale now. Her voice trembled. "Alric, what are you doing? This is the bond." "No, it's not," he hissed. "Something's wrong." I feel his gaze darted to me again. I feel her. Whispers turned to roars. The pack was murmuring, shifting, confused. I stepped forward. Kyle didn't stop me this time. I walked slowly into the circle, the flames brushing shadows across my bare arms. The crowd fell silent. I stopped just a few feet away from Mia and Alric. "You made your choice," I said softly. "You chose her." He stared at me, pain etched into every line of his face. "I didn't know." "You didn't want to know." My voice didn't shake. "Because what you felt for me scared you. Because it didn't fit your plan." He opened his mouth, but I didn't let him speak. "You thought the bond was with Mia because she smelled right. Because everything lined up too neatly. But you never questioned why it didn't feel right." I turned to Mia. She looked like she was about to faint. Her lips parted, but no words came out. "I didn't come here to take him back," I said. "This isn't about claiming what's mine. Because I'm not a prize." I looked back at Alric, and this time, I let the truth pour out. "You didn't choose me. But you were never choosing her. You were given a lie, and you clung to it because it was easier than facing what was real." The only sound was the lapping of water, and the crackle of torches. Mia's eyes filled with tears. Not the pretty kind. The terrified kind. Alric took a shaky breath. "Emily." But I shook my head. "It's too late." I stepped out of the circle. The bond between us was still humming, barely. Weak. Like a thread stretched too far. I let it go. And something inside me sighed in relief. The council chamber was colder than usual. Stone walls. No windows. Just the flickering fire pit in the center, and a silence so heavy it made every footstep echo like judgment. Mia sat across from the circle of elders, her back stiff, her hands folded too tightly in her lap. She wore no makeup today, no lilac silk or effortless curls. Just a plain gray tunic and trembling fingers. I stood by the wall, watching. So did Alric. He looked empty, like someone who had wandered into a battlefield and only just realized he was the cause. The eldest councilwoman cleared her throat. "We've examined the contents found in your room," she said, voice steady. "Verbena, blood blossom, and an alchemic pheromone blend." Mia flinched. A low murmur rolled through the chamber. "These are rare," the woman continued. "Difficult to acquire. Dangerous. And banned." No response. Another elder leaned forward. "Do you deny using them?" Mia opened her mouth. Closed it again. Her voice, when it came, was paper thin. "I didn't mean for it to go that far." Silence. She swallowed, eyes darting to me, then away. "I wanted to be chosen. Just once, not second, not shadow. Just first." The admission hung in the air like smoke. Alric let out a breath beside me, shaky, too soft. He hadn't known. Not truly. Until now. One of the elders raised a hand. "The bond was falsified. Which means it is void." The room reacted in waves. Surprise, whispers, a few angry growls. But I felt nothing. Just a strange calm. Mia didn't look at me again. And I didn't need her to. The truth was out. That was enough. After the council dismissed the hearing, Alric caught up with me outside the hall. The stone steps were slick with evening mist. I paused when I heard him. "Emily." I didn't turn right away. He stopped a few feet behind me. Hesitating. "I was wrong," he said quietly. "So wrong." Still, I didn't turn. "I felt something," he went on. "Even then, with you. But I was afraid. Of what it meant. Of how strong it was. You made me feel like I had no control." Now, I turned. His eyes were red-rimmed. His hands, curled into fists at his sides. "And with her," he continued, "it was easier. Convenient. No chaos. No depth. I didn't want to admit that the real thing might undo me." I looked at him. Really looked. Not as the boy fate once tied me to. But as the man who'd chosen fear. "You let someone else decide what you were supposed to feel," I said. "And you let that lie become your truth." "I know." His voice cracked. "But I see it now. I feel it now, with you. And I want to try. If there's even the smallest chance." I stepped closer, not tender, not cruel, just steady. "The bond," I said softly, "can be faked. But choice?" He held his breath. "That's real," I finished. "And you already made yours." He looked like he'd been slapped. I didn't wait for him to speak again. I turned and walked away. No anger, no pain, just breath. For the first time in weeks, maybe months, it came easily. The wind at the border always felt different. Wilder, less shaped by laws or legacy. It smelled like pine, moss, and open space. The kind that didn't ask you to belong, just invited you to walk through. I stood on the ridge just past the old watchtower ruins, a folded set of blueprints clutched in my hands. The moon was thinner tonight. A silver eyelash in a dark sky dusted with stars. I unfolded the paper slowly, smoothing it over the rock beside me. My future, or at least, a shape I could build it into. A small cabin, clean lines, a wide front porch with room for sketches, coffee, and silence. A window that would face east so I'd always wake up with the sun. It wasn't much. But it was mine. I breathed deep. No tether pulled at my chest. No invisible thread burned under my skin. No mark, no mate. And still, I didn't feel empty. I felt whole. I was starting to think you'd gone full hermit. The voice came from behind me, amused, warm, low. "Kyle." I didn't turn right away. Just smiled. "Not yet," I said. "Give me a few more architectural revisions." He stepped beside me, hands in his coat pockets, eyes scanning the sky like it was a map he'd once memorized but hadn't needed in years. "You brought your house plans," he noted, nodding toward the blueprint. "I wanted to see if they looked right under starlight," I replied. "Turns out they do." He chuckled. "Of course they do. You designed them." Silence stretched between us, but it wasn't awkward. It was easy. Kyle looked at me then, really looked. The scar on his cheek caught the moonlight again, silver across his skin. "You're really not going back, are you?" he asked. "To the pack?" I shrugged. Not in the way they want me to. He nodded. Thoughtful. Respectful. Not once did he try to convince me otherwise. I'm not running, I added. I'm just choosing. He tilted his head. And what have you chosen? I looked at the stars, then at him. Peace, honesty, a roof I can trust and a door I can close, a life that's mine even if no one marks it with a bond. Kyle didn't move. Then, after a beat, he said softly, "Do you want company?" I met his gaze. Not heated, not desperate, just steady. No promises? I asked. He smiled. Only the honest kind. I reached out and touched his hand. His fingers, calloused and warm, curled around mine without hesitation. I don't know what's ahead, I admitted. But I do know this, for once, I'm not waiting to be chosen. I'm doing the choosing. A breeze swept over the ridge, tugging gently at my hair, at the edges of the blueprints, at the pieces of a future that hadn't yet begun, but no longer felt out of reach. We stood there in silence, two souls without chains. No bond. No brand. Just choice. And somehow, that felt stronger than fate ever had. Kyle leaned his shoulder against mine. "You're not what they thought you were," he said. "I know," I whispered. "I'm more." In the distance, the wind howled across the trees. But this time, the sound didn't echo through my ribs like a warning. It stayed outside me. Out there. And inside, just stillness. Just quiet. Just me. Free.